Hello, Morongo Basin, and listeners around the world online at Z107.7 FM.com. Here is the Z107.7 Local news for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. A probation check in Yucca Valley led to 2 arrests and the seizure of drugs suspected to be for sale at an alleged drug house. On Wednesday, San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies conducted a probation compliance search at a home in the 55,600 block of McDonald Drive in Yucca Valley. During a search of the home, deputies say they found approximately 95 grams of suspected methamphetamine, 6 grams of suspected heroin, packaging materials, digital scales, pay-o sheets, narcotics paraphernalia, 2 firearms, and ammunition. The deputies identified the subject of the probation check as Marla Oberlin, 65. She was taken into custody at the home, along with another person at the home, identified as Chad Lemons, 45. Marla Oberlin was arrested on suspicion of possession of controlled substances for sale, transporting controlled substances, keeping a house for the purposes of selling drugs, and probation violations. She is being held at the West Valley Detention Center without bail. Chad Lemons was arrested on suspicion of being in possession of controlled substances and being a felon in possession of a firearm. He is being held at the West Valley Detention Center on $128,000 bail. Did you know the county offers free advice when it comes to zoning and development proposals? On a recent episode of the Z107.7 Up Close show, host Gary Daigneault spoke with local 3rd District Representative and Chair of the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors, Dawn Rao. As part of her work with the county's Land Use Services Department, Rao outlined the county's major zoning issues and ways they have been attempting to guide developers with new projects.
If I could go back in time to the 50s when they laid out the zoning of the rural living areas in the desert, I would have suggested that the coastal regions are going to encroach upon the eastern parts of our county and we should plan for that. They did not. They didn't think that development would really ever move past the county
Now, that was
seats.
back in the 50s. It seems they just kind of just zoned everything the same.
They did.
Rural living and,
they did.
and moved on.
It's a kitchen sink effect, right?
Yeah.
You can have a trash transfer station, a cattery, a home, a motel, all within one zone. And how is that appropriate? But now what's happened is you look at development that's come in. At what point can you go back and rezone without ticking off the majority of people? And so the approach that the county has opted for is to have general plan amendments. We do them 4 times a year where you can change the zoning, and we try to be thoughtful. So we try to think about, where does it make sense to have commercial development? The developer will go in and meet with our land use services and say, for free, what do you think about my idea? And hopefully they've contacted the 3rd District, and I am brutally honest with people, and I'll tell them, hey, don't do this. Maybe, but you should have a community meeting first and get the pulse of people. This is what the problems that you're going to run into. People don't understand that rainwater and floods happen and downstream flows are impacted, all those things. The Joshua tree is a protected species now. And so I try to meet and educate people that are interested in developing. Could be a resort, could be a housing unit, before they get into land use or camping or anything else. And oftentimes they do not meet with us until it's too late and the communities have spoken. So then they're stuck with the process and they get what they get.
You can hear that full conversation by listening to the episode of the Z107.7 Up Close show as a podcast at our website, Z107.7 FM.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Applications to serve as part of a San Bernardino County civil grand jury are open through July 31st. Successful applicants will serve as grand jurors in 2027. Participants on a civil grand jury can be called upon to investigate all aspects of the county, including cities and special districts, and potentially hear information on certain criminal investigations. The civil grand jury is an agency of the Superior Court of California, San Bernardino County, and is independent of the San Bernardino County government. Service as a grand juror involves an average of 3 to 5 full working days per week, which is compensated at $60 per day with appropriate mileage. The regular grand jury meeting place is in San Bernardino. To be eligible for selection, you must be at least 18 years of age, a U.S. citizen, a resident of San Bernardino County. You must also have sufficient knowledge of the English language, possession of natural faculties, and good character. If you're keen to serve, you can find a link to apply before the July 31st deadline at this story at Z107.7 FM.com. And finally, Sky's the Limit Observatory and Nature Center and the Joshua Tree National Park Association announced their 11th annual Night Sky Festival later this year. The JTNPA calls the annual tradition a weekend dedicated to the awe-inspiring night skies of the Mojave Desert. The event will be held the weekend of October 9th and 10th at the Sky's the Limit Observatory and Nature Center in 29 Palms. The family-friendly weekend features constellation tours, telescope clinics, hands-on science activities, inspiring lectures from NASA scientists, and a family space camp, along with glow-themed events and unforgettable stargazing experiences. Festival proceeds benefit the two local nonprofit organizations. You can find the full schedule of events and a link to pre-order tickets at this story at our website, Z107.7fm.com. That's our local news. Hear local news 7 times a day, 7 days a week at 7, 8, 9, noon, 4, 5, and 6. If you hear about news happening, let us know. Email us at tips@z1077fm.com. Reporting for the Morongo Basin News Leader, the award-winning Z107.7 Local News, I'm News Director Jeff Harmatz.